Don't just live for tomorrow, or just live in yesterday. Just be glad for all you have that's in today. And though you've come through many obstacles.
Hey everyone, Connie here. And for those who may not know, for those who have not been on the channel like very long or whatnot, I got this all started doing these reactions because of My Little Pony. I had already been well into the series by that point, but by the time I started doing reactions on YouTube rather than other various things, I was reacting to stuff like My Little Pony fan animations and whatnot, and eventually the full series. I started with season 5 when I started doing reactions. I had already seen the first 4 seasons, and I just kind of went from there. And through this and through the channel, it allowed me to discover many other shows that I probably would have never seen otherwise. Shows that I just never would have thought to check out. I just didn't have that much of an interest in. And shows that I never would have probably even heard of. I would have never probably seen stuff like Steven Universe, Star vs. the Force of Evil, Whack Fu, and plenty of other stuff that we've been even reacting to more recently. MLP allowed me to expand a lot of my interests. But not only that stuff with the channel and other shows, but with the fandom, it allowed me to be able to come out of my shell a lot more and make a lot more friends. It helped me visit more conventions, and even ones out of my home state. Growing close to people in the fandom allowed me to connect a lot more. And I grew a lot because of it. And I won't deny that it's probably one of the multiple things that really helped lead into my transition. But it ended. The series ended after 9 years, and it ended very well, on a very strong note. And those the reactions, the final reactions to this series are on this channel still, including to the finale where I did break down. But now it's 2021, 2 years after the finale. And we're moving on. We've got a new movie, My Little Pony: A New Generation. The first look into Generation 5. And I'm conflicted because I got into this series through Generation 4, through Friendship is Magic. And while I've seen stuff from generations prior to that, I've seen Return to Midnight Castle, I've seen the original 80s movie, I've seen Generations 2 and 3 stuff, and even the 3.5 Newborn Cuties bullshit. The point is, even though I've seen all that, it's G4 was still for me, the quintessential My Little Pony series, because for me, it's what not only got me into it, but it's what the entire fandom was built around. And so now suddenly we got a new generation. And it's 3D. And this movie has like big names voicing in it, which I mean, so did the 2017 film, but not as the main characters. And then it's like, I thought about it, and I thought that, why am I worried about this? Even if it doesn't end up being as good, that doesn't mean that G4 will be any less good, and that doesn't mean I'll be any less invested as a brony in the fandom that I've grown to love. That's not going to change, even if I'm not a fan of this movie. Granted, I still hope to be a fan of this movie, and I think I probably will be based on the trailers, or at least the one trailer I saw. Um, I'm excited. I'm excited to see what more we have in store for us with the world of Equestria, because apparently this is supposed to take place within Equestria, within the same world, just distant future after the events of Friendship is Magic. And that alone is very interesting, because there's a lot of questions that rise from that. But I'm conflicted on whether or not I want answers, because I kind of want a new generation to be its own thing. But at the same time, there's a lot of questions that come from just what the plot is. Just what this story is raises a lot of questions about how things would have changed from the times of Friendship is Magic. And I don't know what to expect in that regard. I wouldn't expect like constant like callbacks or anything, but still. This movie interests me. I want it to be as good or even possibly better than G4. And the trailer I saw that I believe I reacted to definitely gave me some good vibes. And the bit I've seen of characters like Izzy definitely given me good vibes. But we need more. We need to see this actual film. And I said I would react to this. And I feel like I almost need to react to this because of where my channel came from. Because of the fact that this series kickstarted my journey into reactions, and we wouldn't be where we are now with this channel without it. So, we're going to get into this. We're going to hope for the best. And I'm going to be genuine as possible. I'm going to give it a fair shot, like with everything I react to. And I'm really hoping to love it. It's just, with so many years of G4, there's no doubt going to be comparisons. There's no doubt going to be things that I don't like as much comparatively, or things that I like maybe more. I don't know exactly how this is going to go. But I'm definitely excited to find out. So, we're going to get this started and hope for the best. And as Pinkie Pie and Gen 4 would say, I am nervous-sighted. But we're just going to dive in. So when the screen fades to black, pause this redirect and go to the description below. Follow the link to the reaction, and after you watch it, come back here to the redirect and resume play. Because after it fades to black and then fades back in, everything from that point forward will be my afterthoughts and will contain spoilers to the movie. So, that being said, thank you so much for tuning in, and I will see you at the reaction. And we are back, and we'll begin with spoilers in 3, 2, 1, now. So as you probably saw in the pre-thoughts, I was nervous. I was extremely nervous, actually. I didn't even talk about what the movie was about. Like, I didn't even, like, talk about the synopsis of the film or anything. I just talked about, like, how nervous I was and how I was just ready to see what this could give us and hoped that it would be as good or even possibly better than G4. Obviously, it's hard to rate a movie in comparison to an entire 9-season series that had multiple spin-offs and movies and all, but still. I was nervous, and I didn't know what I was going to think of this. And yeah, there's always the thing that even if I didn't like it, again, I still had G4, and G4 was still great, and I still loved it. I still look back on it fondly. That doesn't change. But admittedly, I still wanted to love this. I still wanted this movie to impress me, to just be everything it could be and more. And thankfully it was. My fears were definitely calmed. I may have gone into this nervous, but I come out of it just genuinely happy at how it turned out. It didn't answer every question we had. It didn't answer why everyone kind of went back to how they used to be. It didn't, or in terms of like the pony racism and all. It didn't answer a lot of the questions on like how far into the future this was from like the events of Generation 4. But I don't think it necessarily needed to. It would have been nice to know. But the fact of the matter is that what we found out was still pretty great. Like, we do have, like, it's blatant that this is in the same world, especially with that opening bit. And what's important here is not so much the past and how we came from that, but what's going to be done about the future. That's what this movie is basically all about. Changing the future for the betterment of all pony kind. And while this doesn't like even touch on the idea of the other races that we saw in G4 either, like hippogriffs or changelings or anything, maybe if the series does follow this movie and the events of such, maybe that will be touched on there. But for now, for what we got with this was great. Like, really great. The art and animation, let's start with that. This is something that a lot of people were worried about when they first found out it was going to be CG, because we're so used to MLP not being CG. We're used to it being regular style animation, and so people were worried. And then the trailer eventually did come out along with all the little teasers, and people were like saying like, okay, this actually looks pretty good. And then now that I've seen the movie, for me personally at least, I can say it looked damn good. Like, they really went all out to make it look as good as possible. From the lip sync to the emotions on their faces, the way they moved, and the backgrounds are gorgeous. It's just like they really worked hard to make this look beautiful. And it looks beautiful. Like, this is really high quality art and animation on this. The voice acting was top notch, but we've got some big name voices in this movie. If the series, the G5 series that's to come, does follow these same characters, I really doubt they're going to get the same voice actors, so they're going to probably have to try to find someone who can at least imitate them. Because I doubt they're going to be able to get all these same voice actors again, for obvious reasons. Though if they did, that would be pretty neat. Um, but the voice actors in this all did a fantastic job. All of them really sold the characters really well. Um, and you just really connected with them. And the characters themselves, just on their own, like, again, you really connected with them. You really felt like they were characters in My Little Pony. As someone who was a fan of G4, it's like this feels like a follow up. Yes, it kind of feels like its own thing in a lot of ways because it doesn't answer every question that we had regarding this world and how it's changed and everything, but it still feels like the same type of characters you would get in G4. And it's just, it's really cool. And then there's the story. So there were some people when the story was first announced and everything, and it's like, oh, Sunny Scout is basically going to be like this social justice warrior, you could say. There were people who were bitching about that, who were complaining, who were saying that it's getting too quote unquote woke, and it's like, did you watch G4? Because G4 was pretty quote unquote woke as well, if you actually watched it. Like, yes, Sunny is literally fighting against racism in this movie. They don't even hide the message of this film. It is very much an anti-racism film. But they've done this like same kind of plot in G4. They've had this same kind of message in G4 amongst a lot of others. It's not new. They've tackled stuff like this, like racism and xenophobia and whatnot, in Generation 4. So it's just, I don't know why people were like acting like this was something new or like something like more, again, quote unquote woke. I don't know how else to put it. That than My Little Pony used to be. It's like, no, it really isn't. It's just, it's a little more blatant about it, I guess you could say, than G4 was. But I think it handled the story really well. Because again, this is something we've seen in G4, and let's be honest, most of the fan base of this movie, most of the viewer base of this movie are going to be coming in from G4. So we're going to be able to like connect to that, to the things that we saw in Friendship is Magic. And I feel like it fits. It makes sense. It's something that we've seen before, and so we know there's precedence for it. So it's not just some random racism plot line out of nowhere. It's literally something that was mentioned multiple times in G4. So, and I think it was handled well. It was handled realistically, to where there's propaganda, there's all these rumors about the other pony races, and all of it's completely unfounded. And that's racism for you. It's just, it's bullshit spun to make other races look bad. So I'm glad that we saw this handled well. The journey of Sunny and kind of gathering this new friend group was handled well too. We got the new friends like one by one, and it's just kind of like built up to them, and they weren't even friends like all right away. Like, yeah, Sunny and Izzy kind of connected really quickly, but you had Zip and Pip who took a little longer. Pip even longer than Zip even. because Pip was very much ingrained in that star culture that she had been built up in as not only a princess but a pop star and a social media icon. She was built up in that, so she had to kind of be brought down and see things from the other's perspective. And eventually she did. Eventually she did bond with them. And Hitch, he was a holdout at first too, because it's just how he was raised and how, all he knew. But once he started to hang out with them and see the truth for himself, he realized it was all bullshit, and he just he sided with them. He joined them and became friends as well. Um, and I like how it turned into basically the journey to find these crystals and put them together. I think that was a smart kind of way to connect everything and to give like a main thing to bring everything back together. Um, Sprout was kind of, I guess you could say, the main villain. Kind of becoming almost dictator like. Jeez, when you think about it. Um, like even the outfit and the giant banner that came down, like you know what that's supposed to be kind of implying. And considering the move and considering his moves and his actions were built in racism, it's like you kind of understand what they're going for. Um, and as a main villain for this, he was just kind of okay. Like comparative to villains, like you gotta compare this to G4 because it's clearly meant to be a follow up. Compared to the villains of G4, it's like he may be better than a couple of them, but he doesn't stack up to others. Like Starlight was still a much better villain. Um, and Tyrek and Cozy Glow and definitely Chrysalis. And it's like, yeah, he might beat like the Pony of Shadows or whatnot. But he's not going to beat Discord as a villain specifically. You have to make that clarification because Discord as a villain was great. Discord as a quote unquote reformed character was terrible. But I'm not going to get into that here. I'm not going to get into that here. Um, but yeah, Sprout was just kind of okay. I didn't hate him as a villain, um, but I didn't like love him as a villain either. I just felt he was kind of there. He was funny, I guess, but yeah, it's just he didn't have as much of an impact. Ken Jeong did a great job. At like all the praise for Ken Jeong's voice performance, but just as a character, I mean, he just didn't really stand out as much. Um, but I don't think he was supposed to, because I don't think he was supposed to be seen as like actually evil or anything, but just like a product of the actual evil of the racism that everything was kind of centering around. The true villain of this is racism, just straight up. Um, and you also had a couple other characters who could be seen as like minor antagonists. You had like Alpha Biddle, you had Sprout's mother, who I can't remember the name of, and then you had the Queen of the Pegasi. And all of them were like, yeah, they were just like minor antagonists. None of them were meant to be seen as like super like important in terms of being villains, but and you knew that by the end, like everyone would unite and all, but still. If I had to say my favorite out of those three, I would say it would probably be Alphabettle. He's the most interesting to me. Um, just the idea of like this guy who runs this tea bar, where he challenges and accepts challenges for games and with high stakes on the line. I think that's a fantastic idea. The queen is she's a queen. She's like she's a queen. She's a celebrity. She's that's basically all we've got to her. And she was fine. I had no issue with her, but there wasn't a lot of character to her other than that. Um, And then you had uh, Sprout's mother, who was more interesting for sure. Um, but she didn't really do much. She wasn't even really that antagonistic outside of the beginning scene with Sunny and her father. And let's talk about that. Sunny's father died. Like, I feel that's pretty blatant. It never outright said it. It never outright said anything even close. But it very subtly told us that he died. It just, I feel like they just couldn't get away with actually using the words or anything close. So they had to kind of just make it as obvious as possible without actually saying it. Because all they basically said was that he's gone and that Sonny wishes he was still there and everything. And it's like, but the context of it, the visuals that we saw, like with the picture and everything, it was pretty obvious. And it's like that's pretty dark, and pretty sad. And it's like, oh, I'm wondering if the reason is because they couldn't afford to have more lines for Michael McKean, because he was really only in that opening scene. And I'm wondering if Michael McKean just like was more expensive than others. I don't know. Uh, I would think that honestly, James Marsden would be the most expensive, considering his big success with the Sonic movie and everything, and various other big name movies and franchises like the X Men trilogy. But I don't know. Maybe Michael McKean was more. Maybe I don't know. But maybe it's something else. Even maybe that was just the plan for the character from the start, even before Michael McKean was cast. Either way, he did a great job as well. Um, but yeah, the fact that they did go that route is really interesting to me, and definitely was unexpected. And that opening scene, by the way, with the main six and everything, and then Rarity like kind of turning crazy evil because of Sprout and everything voicing her, was fucking hilarious. And it was so unexpected. I did not expect to actually see like a little thing with the main six in this from Generation 4. That really caught me off guard, but in kind of the best way. Um, I really loved it. I loved getting to see them again. And let me check something here. Was that their actual voices? It sounded just like them. I have to see. Oh, hold on. Crap. That was them. That was actually them. Tabitha, Tabitha St. Germain as Rarity, Tara Strong as Twilight Sparkle, Andrea Libman as Fluttershy and Pinkie Pie, and Ashley Ball as Applejack and Rainbow Dash. And I'm wow, that hit me. That hit me hard. Oh God. Just knowing that was actually them and not just like people impersonating them, that they actually reprised their roles, that we actually got to hear them again in something new. Oh God, that's just I've talked about before how Generation 4, how Friendship is Magic literally saved my life. So, for those who don't know, basically it saved me from a really bad depression and even suicide attempts back when I first discovered it. And especially the character of Pinkie Pie. So knowing that Andrea Libman was in this, who I've gotten to meet at conventions, and it's like, but still knowing she was in this, knowing they were all in this, all the voice actresses for these characters I loved for so long, it gets me really fucking emotional. And according to this, Jillian Barrow, again, she was a writer in G4 and she wrote the chapter books as well, including the Daring Do books. She was also a voice actress in this. She was a minor character named Zoom. Um, Laura Bailey was in this as some minor characters. Carrie Walgren. Okay, that's interesting to know. And Sprout had a different singing voice, Alan Schmuckler. Looks like that's the only one who actually had a different singing voice, though. So it seems like everyone else's singing voice was them. Um, and I don't recognize any of the other names. I don't think, at least. But yeah, I just, I really love this. From the characters to the story to the music was great. The music was really, really good. I'm gonna be listening to those again, those songs again for sure. And just the message. Like, let's be honest, racism is a hot topic in our country here in America, and honestly, probably has been around the world plenty. Racism is just a hot topic in general, and it's something that needs to be stopped. People think that just because, talking from here in America, people think that just because, like, slavery was outlawed, people think that just because people of color are allowed to be in the same schools and have the same quote unquote rights as white people, they think that racism is just doesn't exist anymore. There are people who think that, and it's completely wrong. Racism very much still exists. There's institutional racism in our government, in our police force. There's racism constantly being seen just all over the internet. Like, all kinds of people taking video, all kinds of people being racist on social media. And it's horrible. And I've mentioned in multiple videos and multiple different reactions and stuff on this channel that racism pisses me off. It legitimately angers me. Just the idea that people would be that shitty to another person just because of the color of their skin is fucking disgusting. And so the fact that they made this movie focus on this was smart. Because not only just because it's a hot topic in the world right now, and especially here in America, but because it's still a message that needs to be said, unfortunately. It's a message that needs to be covered, even in 2021. And they handled it really well. It felt natural and it felt right. And again, there is precedence for this based on G4, based on Friendship is Magic. This is a thing that happened multiple times and was talked about multiple times in Friendship is Magic. So it doesn't just come out of nowhere, and it doesn't feel like it's just ham-fisted in there for the sake of forcing a message, like a lot of shows have done, admittedly. It felt like it was done properly. Like, they actually put forth the thought into how to make this kind of message work for this series, for this franchise, and make it feel completely natural and not like it's just trying to force a message, not like it's just trying to be super preachy for the sake of being super preachy. They succeeded, and I'm happy for that. Um, they gave us some great likable characters that have already gotten a shit ton of awesome fan art, and you know we're going to get a lot more. And fan projects in general, you know, people are going to be making more plushes. I've seen some amazing plushes being made for these characters. You know, there's going to be a lot of great fan works coming out of this. And you know, you're going to see those at the Brony conventions and the vendor halls and whatnot. And this is, and the big thing that those of us who are fans from G4, those of us who did get into this fandom, the Brony fandom, from Friendship is Magic, something we have to remember is that this movie and the upcoming Generation 5 in general, it's going to bring in new fans. Both young and old, people who are going to discover My Little Pony through this generation. And what we have to do is welcome them openly and completely. To welcome them with open arms and to accept them into the fandom. Just because they would come into it later than we did does not make them any less valid. They are just as much part of this fandom as we are, and we need to bring them in and show them the magic of friendship. We need to be like Sunny and show them that we're not going to discriminate against them because of stupid factors like, again, the fact that they came in later, the fact that they didn't discover this fandom through Friendship is Magic. We can't let that stuff control our thoughts here. We have to just accept them. And I can't wait for all the new creative stuff that's going to come from this, for all the new amazing people that are going to come out of this, and all the people who are going to find themselves through this. Because G-Force certainly helped a lot of people discover a lot about themselves, myself included. So I'm very excited for what this movie's going to bring with the fandom. And I'm just very happy with how it turned out. While I may have been nervous at the beginning, while I may have been worried about how it was going to turn out, like I've said, by the end, I was sold. This is My Little Pony. This is truly a worthy follow-up. And honestly, I couldn't be more satisfied. So thank you all so much for tuning in. Tell me in the comments below what you thought of My Little Pony: A New Generation. And what are some of your hopes for the upcoming G5, especially if this does continue on with these characters? I would hope, for one thing, that Sunny does not keep the wings, the magic wings and horn. I think that would be a little much, honestly. But that's just me. Either way, tell me your thoughts down below, and thank you so much for tuning in. For now, I am Connie, and I am signing off. See y'all next time.